Hey guys, Lauren here. Today is going to be a really great video for you if you have been hesitating on sharing your message lately. You have a specific topic that you want to talk about, but you're really afraid that you're going to get a lot of backlash for it, or you're afraid that it's going to go ignored, or people are going to judge you for it. These are all common fears, and that's okay that you're experiencing them. But I'm here to tell you that someone somewhere needs your influence a hell of a lot more than you think they do. And your words are going to change somebody for the better. So if you've been putting something off, listen to this video. A long time ago, when I was a kid, my parents bought my sister and I a ping pong table. I specifically really love that thing. And a couple weeks into having it, my dad decided we needed a light fixture above it. So we hired a handyman, and he came out and put it up, and then all the adults left and went to work on another project upstairs. I went back to playing with the ping pong table. And while I was doing that, the light went out. And I was a shrimp back then. I was so tiny. I was like, sure, it's not going to be a problem. It's a table. I can hop on this and fix the light and screw it back in, adjust it, and it'll be fine. The table collapsed beneath my feet, and I was so embarrassed because I knew I was going to have to deal with my parents yelling at me for it. I knew I had to admit, it's not something I could cover up, so I had to go admit to them what had happened while this handyman was still there. As I expected, they were furious with me. They exiled me to the driveway so they couldn't get any angrier at me just by seeing my face. And I just felt like crap. I felt like total crap because I was doing what I genuinely thought was the right thing to do. I was trying to be helpful, and there was so much backlash. So I remember standing there in the driveway, so uncomfortable and awkward, and thinking like I was the scum of the earth because I just kept getting in trouble for doing helpful things. And at that time, that handyman came outside, took a smoke break, he stood next to me awkwardly in the discomfort, and was like, shit happens. I didn't respond. I might have said, yeah, but I was trying to keep myself from bawling in front of this guy because I was already embarrassed enough as it was. But it really helped me. It really gave me the ability to ease up on myself. I just didn't feel like I had anybody in my corner at that time, and that guy stepped in, and he could have remained silent. He could have been like, that's not my place. I don't know this family, whatever. But he chose to, not knowing whether his words were going to help or not, he chose to say that in his own way. And it helped a lot. So if you want to step in and say something to somebody, if it's with good intentions and not to prove a point to them, and not to judge them or make them feel bad or criticize them, but to be there in support of them and to challenge them to be better, absolutely do it. Your words will be so much more effective than you realize, because I don't think that guy had any idea that, I don't know, over a decade later, somebody would be telling this story. But I do often. I make my parents feel really bad about how they acted that day. So, I want to share 3 reasons why people need your influence way more than you think. Reason number 1, people follow what they can see. This is actually a really cool concept that Jonah Berger talks about in his book Contagious. It's a highly recommended read, and I also highly recommend it. He talks about this concept called observability, where it's basically monkey see, monkey do. What people see around them is what they copy. So it's actually the reason why anti-drug campaigns inspire more drug use amongst teens, which is really freaking interesting. If you ever see videos of people cheering on a fight, you see 2 people going at it, and everybody else is either recording something on their phone or cheering. I guarantee you, if one person had the courage to step in and try to break that up, then a lot of other people would follow what they're really feeling inside instead of following what everybody else is doing on the outside, and they would also step in and say, hey, this isn't cool, this isn't right, let's break it up. But at the core of it, nobody really knows what to do, and we're all just kind of looking around for the adult in the room to step in and show us. But when you are in a room full of adults and nobody's doing anything, you have the perfect opportunity to influence everybody to do better. And simply put, people just need to be shown what to do because it makes it easy to copy. It's honestly like a domino effect. So you can either be the catalyst causing the change, or you can just be pushed over with everybody else. And that's really cool to know that you have that kind of control. So reason number 2, people need your permission. This is not my idea, just like the last one wasn't either. This one actually comes from my client, Michelle. When I asked her why she does what she does as a coach, she said, people need your permission. I had never really thought about that before, but it's true. We are so afraid of getting in trouble. We're so afraid of being wrong. We're so afraid of other people's judgments that we don't give ourselves permission to live fully in our truth. And that's a huge reason why I do what I do and why I share the content that I share, and because I never know who's gonna need it. When you let your guard down and you share your honest experiences, your honest insights, wisdom, feelings, thoughts, everything, as long as you're real and upfront about what you truly feel, this is what you're gonna get in return. Holy crap, I thought I was the only one. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I feel so much better about myself. Your words can literally release somebody from years of guilt and shame that they've been carrying for something that probably isn't even a big deal. But that won't happen if you keep your thoughts to yourself. This actually happened at a conference I attended a couple years ago. She was asking a question that was, what is one seemingly unrelated thing in your routine that you need to change in order to help you get your book done? And I had that same thought and same feeling that we all do when you can share answers at a big event. It was like, mine's going to be insignificant. Nobody wants to hear this. I'll just be taking up space, and I'll get really hyped and really nervous, and it's just so stupid, so I'm not going to do it. But I did it. I stood up, and I took the mic, and I was like, I need to start washing my face at night, and I need to stop falling asleep with makeup on. And I really thought I was going to be the only one, but there was like a wave of relatability across the entire room. This woman who was in her late 60s came up to me and said, Lauren, you have no idea how much guilt and shame I've carried around my whole life. And this poor woman walked around with all of that like shame for the longest time, and it took me just being like, I need to wash my face, for her to be like, oh, people, like, it's okay for me to not wash my face. Like, other people have been there too. I'm not some ridiculous person for that. It builds trust with them. It builds a relationship between you two. And honestly, she became a client down the road, and she was an amazing client, and we connected so well. And honestly, that's why memes are so good. Like, anybody can connect really well over a meme because it's hilarious, because it's honest. And it lets us know that we're not the only ones. I'm constantly that way with memes. I'm like, oh, that's it. Like, other people feel that too. I really thought that was only me. So you help people heal. You literally help people heal. And the last point. You may be the only person somebody feels comfortable learning from. Imagine being in a classroom where you are super intimidated by the teacher. You might have actually had that and can recall that person immediately in your mind. When you're in that space, you don't get the clarity that you need because you're too afraid to ask the questions that you need to ask. So your grades suffer, and your self-esteem suffers, and all of these effects happen because you don't relate to the teacher. And honestly, that's what life is like for most of us these days, and probably always was, but people didn't speak up about it. I know I still get like that sometimes, and I've done so much mindset work around that stuff to get me out of it. So imagine what your influence could do for somebody else who's in that position. What kinds of things could you be helping somebody learn right now? And what kinds of things could you open them up to if you gave them that space, that container of, there are no dumb questions. Like, you don't have to feel embarrassed for asking for clarity on something that you feel you should know by now. When I worked this one job, I had barely any knowledge of my role, and I barely knew anything about the industry. I knew just enough to get by. Yet there was a new person on our team who would always come to me when he had a question. And I didn't understand it, but I always did my best to get him an answer. When I left the company, he admitted to me I was the only person he felt comfortable enough to ask those questions, like, should I know this by now? To, because I wasn't going to make him feel like an idiot for not knowing it. If you keep your influence to yourself, and you don't get your message out in your own way, you could literally be stopping somebody from becoming the next Oprah or the next Elon Musk. Because right now, nobody else's message is landing for them, but yours just might. I challenge you to whatever you're stalling on right now, whatever you're afraid to release right now or to put out into the world, and you know deep down that it's going to do better, but you're afraid of the backlash, so you let that have all of the power over you, go do that thing. Because I guarantee you there is somebody who really needs your influence right now. There is somebody who is silently begging for you to step in and change their life for the better. So speak up lovingly and trust that it's doing good. If you've been thinking about sharing your story and getting your own influence out there and building a brand around yourself, your personal brand, but you don't really know how to start, or you have all these ideas and you don't know how to connect them, or you don't know how to create content, you don't know what content to create, you don't know how to create congruency across your brand, I can absolutely help with that. I have a couple options. I have personal brand photography, which includes personal brand consulting in with those packages, and I also do personal brand consulting itself. If you want to get started right away, I have a guide along with some helpful tips on how to build your personal brand. But the guide is how to build your personal brand with your headshots, and I think you're really going to like it. I will leave that below with a link. Back and tell me how things go after you do it and how much better you feel and how much people actually, like, you're surprised at how much people say, wow, I really needed that. Thank you for sharing. You got this. All good things, guys.